One has to be very careful in politics. To begin with, Kemi Badenoch, the self-styled intellectual bruiser of the Conservative Party. She couldn't bruise a piece of fruit that's been left out too long. She appears to believe that political virtue is measured not in service but in cynicism. And in her record podcast appearance with Jordan Peterson, a man who's become the online confessor of cultural warriors, Badenoch mocked the Lib Dems as nice people who fix things like church roofs, only to arrive in Parliament with silly and foolish ideas. Well, set aside for a moment the absurdity of deriding community-mindedness. What's more revealing is Badenoch's implicit belief that such grounded, local engagement is somehow beneath politics or beneath her, as though debating abstractions on Twitter were more noble than restoring a leaking nave in Buckinghamshire. Her words drip with the same disdainful superiority that has characterised a Tory elite increasingly detached from the places they claim to represent. In fact, Badenoch's comments are a perfect case study in new conservative ideology: contempt for compromise, dismissal of community, and a preference for digital grandstanding over practical government. But Badenoch is sneering, and if she's doing that, then Nigel Farage is simply sleepwalking. He continues to haunt the airwaves like a faded Victorian ghost, muttering about sovereignty and brandishing his pint, and often doing that at arm's length from Mar-a-Lago. Sorry, Fargo's a much better concept, a rather beautiful film. Mar-a-Lago is just a place of glitz and golf. This week, he's warned about global conspiracies and immigration surges, but one cannot help but notice that the public mood has shifted. The Brexit battleground he once dominated now looks more like a bog. Swampy, directionless, or oddly quiet. And his dog-whistle rhetoric no longer reverberates with the same urgency. While Farage imagines himself a prophetic outsider, I'm not shallow, in truth he is rapidly becoming yesterday's man. A populist who, like a drunk clinging to a karaoke microphone, doesn't realise the audience has already left. And then, in this political opera of disdain and delusion, enters Ed Davey. Now, Sir Ed has taken great pleasure in weaponising Badenoch's sneer. At the Lib Dem Spring Conference in Harrogate, he declared it a badge of honour to be seen as the party that fixes church roofs and local potholes. He's cast the Tories as aloof, inadequates, ideologues, too busy debating the metaphysics of wokeness to notice that sewage is pouring into rivers and GPs are vanishing like milkmen. It's an effective jab, and yet there's a cautionary note that must be sounded. Sir Ed Davey is not without his own baggage. For all his charm and localist rhetoric, he has yet to fully reckon with his own past, most notably his ministerial role during the Post Office Horizon scandal. It's not merely a footnote. Hundreds of sub-postmasters suffered under a regime of denial, one in which the government's inaction compounded a corporate injustice, and he was there, up to his neck in it. As up to his neck in the Horizon scandal, as Therese Coffey was up to her neck in slurry and sewage because she was in charge of that. David's best strategy now is not to crow but to retreat. Not triumphalism, but humility, not slogans, but silence, because if there is the faintest possibility that Labour stumbles, or Starmer falters, and politics is full of such possibilities, or that Badenoch fails, and that's more than likely, or that most of her MPs go off to reform, then the Lib Dems could find themselves propelled from the parish hall to the main stage, from the parish hall to the opposition benches, to lead the opposition. Leader of the opposition, Sir Ed Davey. But to deserve that, Davey must first show he understands the weight of leadership and not just the thrill of being liked. And the lesson here is that populist posturing, whether in Tory blue or Reform red, is wearing thin. Badenoch's dismissiveness is a misreading of the public mood. Farage's bombast is increasingly a sideshow. And Davey, should he manage to be as quiet as he is affable, may yet find himself the accidental beneficiary of their overreach. But only if he remembers one thing. that sometimes the best way to win the room is to fix the roof, and to say very little while doing it.